Alice. Great to see everyone. I thought I was replying in the chat, but I think my message is going to only panelists. But I was saying hello, everyone, and awesome to see how you have been using different AI tools and things. So yeah, there'll be maybe a little bit of overlap and hopefully some new things that you can learn as well today. But yeah, as Alice said, please do keep posting any kind of thoughts in the chat, and then if you add the questions to the Q&A, I'll be really happy to spend some time. Hopefully the slides shouldn't take sort of much more than 30 minutes, to be honest, so we've got plenty of time to go through any specific questions for your businesses. So yeah, awesome. Let me share my screen so you can see the presentation.
Oh, John, you're just on mute, sorry.
Okay, we're back. It seems to do that when I share screen, switch me to mute. Thanks, Alice. Okay, awesome. Let's get into it then. So a bit about me. Normally, if we were doing this more interactive workshop, I'd want to know a bit more about your businesses, but obviously the format and the number of the people we've got today, it's more of a webinar. So I'll just introduce myself. But yeah, really interested to see some of the things that you've been doing in the chat and what businesses you work with. So yeah, my background's in digital marketing, over a decade in digital marketing. I ran an agency for several years. But obviously digital marketing was always and still is a fast-paced industry, and I was always interested in the latest and new technologies that were coming out. And through my work with marketing clients, AI was becoming more and more prevalent with them. So that's how my introduction to AI came about, and particularly over the last sort of year, and probably more accelerated at the start of this year, the last 6 months, that pace of introducing AI for my marketing clients had increased massively, to the point where I then set up my AI consulting, which is TryAI. TryAI.co.uk is my consulting business, and I help small businesses go from 0 to 1, basically. So there are probably more, well, there certainly are, sorry, more technical experts than me with AI and different tools that are out there. But in terms of that kind of like from the ground, you've heard of AI, you've maybe played around a little bit with the likes of ChatGPT, and you just want to see, well, actually, how can it benefit my business? That's what I do with clients. So I'll do some, yeah, an overview of some of the things that can hopefully help at least get you thinking about tools that might be relevant for your business across different areas of the business. Okay, so where is AI at? AI, say that a million times, AI at currently. And I've put a little asterisk there because the pace of progress, as you've probably seen, is insane. So every day there are new tools. I don't know if people might have seen Google's announcements yesterday, Google I/O. There's so many tools that they've launched. They've kind of entered the game in a big way now, obviously on the back of Bard, one of their kind of equivalent of ChatGPT, if you like, that Bing have incorporated. So yeah, the pace is massive. Things are moving really quickly. There are new tools every day. And I think the challenge is now for small business leaders is to identify the signal amongst the noise, because there are a lot of tools and there are a lot of things that also sound quite interesting and kind of can capture your attention, but actually, can they practically help you in your business? In many cases, I would say the answer is no at this point. There are some tools that can be developed, but at this stage, there are a lot of things out there that are fun and interesting, but actually maybe not that relevant. So hopefully I can try and get a few practical uses of AI for your business. So as I said, ChatGPT is the main kind of AI tool that's exploded from OpenAI, which is the one that most people might have tested or used. If you haven't got a paid for subscription, which is $20 a month, you may always see that it's, or may often see that it is unusable because the traffic is so high. So it always says that, yeah, you have to kind of come back to it at a later time. And that's what's known as an LLM, a large language model. And the current version of ChatGPT is ChatGPT 4, and that's taken quite a step from the previous versions. We had 2, 2.5, 3, and then gone through to 4. And the information that that's based on is accurate up to September 21. So depending on what you're trying to get from it, it may not have the latest information. But it is incorporating a huge amount of data from various sources, some which we're aware of and some which are kind of hidden from OpenAI. And basically, you can do a variety of things through that, primarily content generation. So people like to just have a play around with it, just ask some questions. From a business perspective, we'll get into some of the applications it can do. But that's a really good place just to start if you haven't used AI, to see the potential for it, because often that first use is the eye opener. More than I could say or anybody else is actually just playing around with it, and then you can be surprised by the scope and the quality of the response. We'll get into how to use the tools as well to get the most from them. But yeah, content generation is one of the first areas that people can look at. So this can be images, this could be videos, and then of course the copy as well. Now, there are numerous other applications, of course, with AI, and AI is much larger, including applications across robotics in healthcare, autonomous systems, self-driving education, etc. So there's a whole other world of AI, but in specific small business world, we'll talk about some of the tools that we can use. So where can AI help your business? So I'm going to run through different areas of your small businesses that you would run, and we'll look at how it can help, and then we'll also get into some of the tools later on that you can hopefully test out yourself. So I think one of the first areas, maybe a little bit biased with my background, but is marketing. That's where a lot of people think that they can use AI to assist with their business. So if you think about all the content that you create for your business from marketing, so this could be things as simple as blog posts on your website. It could be the copy on your website if you're maybe creating a new site, updating the site, adding landing pages to the website. If you're running any ad campaigns, for example, if you're running Google Ads, the headlines and the descriptions that are written within those ads. And then, of course, anything on social media. So social media posts, social media ads, various different things like email subject lines, email copy. AI can create all of this for you. Now, just because it can doesn't mean it should or that you should use it. My rule that I'm saying to clients at the moment is to use the 80-20 rule when it comes to using AI to create content. What I mean by that is let AI create 80% of the content, and then the human editing is still really important, that 20%. And I think we're seeing a lot of lazy AI content come out at the moment, which is pretty obvious really, where that 20% hasn't been applied. So you still make a massive time saving and you can get some real good gains by using AI. But I'm wary of seeing people 100% rely on it very quickly. And that is quite obvious. So like I say, 80% of letting it do the generation and then adding your little brand touch, your tone of voice, that 20% can be really beneficial to just make it more personalized, more effective, and ultimately more engaging and driving more conversions if it's from a marketing perspective, as we're talking about. So we'll get into some of the tools that you can use from a content perspective as well. The quality of the output relies on the quality of the input. So if you go to a tool such as ChatGPT, the one we referenced earlier, this is a tool called Jasper on the screen, which I'll touch on, and you ask it to do something for you. If you simply ask it, write a blog post using this title, okay, it will do that, and you will probably be surprised at the quality of the post. However, if that's all you're doing, that's all the majority of people are doing. So if you want to stand out, the more detail, the more insight you can give it. So you want to ask the tool, the AI tool, to write a blog post in the style of X brand, your tone of voice, talk about the audience you're reaching to. If you want to be using for SEO purposes, do you want to include certain keywords? Do you want to include a call to action? So the more input you give, the better the output, the better the quality of the response from the AI. So that's just something to keep in mind across all the different AI tools. And the AI tools will train themselves on your queries. So if you've used ChatGPT, on the left-hand side, you'll see a list of all your previous requests. And what happens is that on that same request, if you go back to that like tab, it will continually improve the quality of what it's based on. So it's good to have tabs for me as a consultant working with different clients. I'll have them for different clients, for example, because the AI is trained on that particular business, that client, to create content for it. In time, there's been some indication that ChatGPT will allow you to create profiles. So you don't have to repeatedly do this. So you can explain what your business is as a profile within ChatGPT. So this is a tool called Jasper, one of my favorites, and I'm going to come back to that later from a marketing perspective. So that gives you a bit of an understanding of some of the uses for marketing. Like I say, it's often one of the first places people think of and come to when they're looking at AI. But then you've got your sales presentations. So if you're a B2B business, potentially you're presenting to prospects. You may even want some sales copy that you can use on your website that you can host there. And AI tools can be very helpful in creating beautiful presentations. So if you're anything like me, I'm not particularly design savvy. I'm a data-driven person. I like stats and numbers, but the design and creative side isn't necessarily my forte. So tools like this can be really beneficial because I can put into there some brand guidelines, again, the target audience, a bit of insight about the aim of the presentation, in this case, to generate a sale, speaking to a prospect. And off the back of that, using the copy that's been generated, again, could be through AI. It will help you create a very slick and nice looking presentation, much better than I would produce, for example, as a very low scale designer, the ability to use Canva, for example, not somebody who's got a design background. So there are a variety of tools that can help you with your sales presentations, and they can incorporate generating AI copy within the tools themselves, also within images and videos. So I'm trying to keep up. I'm not sure if that's referencing this tool. There's a tool called Beautiful for slides with AI, which is one to look at if someone's asking relevant to that. I'll come on to some of the tools in a bit more detail. I just want to talk about the different ways that you can use AI. So yeah, generating sales presentations is a good one because people spend a lot of time on doing this. And if you're like me, when I was starting out, I was often duplicating a lot of work that didn't need to be done. So once you create a sales presentation through one of these tools, you can just adapt it for each of your clients and your prospects. Someone just asking about the pricing. I'll come back to Q&As at the end as well, but just while I see anything, I will mention it. So yeah, most of the tools, I would say, we can kind of cover everything with. Almost all would have some form of free trial. I believe Beautiful does. And you'll be surprised actually about how low cost most of these tools are. A lot of the tools are wrappers around OpenAI's API, to be honest. So they've just created a nice front end and a very specific use case, which is why they can't charge a huge amount. But most of the tools, depending on how much you need to use them, are around sort of $20 a month, something like that. I'll talk specifically about the tools that I recommend later and some of their pricing because I'm on their paid packages. So yeah, sales presentations is a good use of AI for small businesses. Probably the second most often, I was on a sales call this morning with a prospect looking to work with me, and they were telling me all the admin tasks that they do in their recruitment business, and it was kind of insane really how many things they spent so many hours on amongst their team that AI could really help with. So it was a good use case. So I think someone actually is in the chat here is using Otter AI, has joined, so is note taking using this webinar, which is yeah, a good use of it there in practice. So yeah, if it was say for example, you were on a Zoom call with some of your team or one of your clients, tools that can join that call and take the transcripts, and then not only that, because obviously the transcripts will have a lot of fluff and a lot of the introduction part that maybe you don't need, it can summarize those notes into the salient points for you, which you can then disseminate across your team. That can all be automated actually. So after a meeting, the AI will take the summary, take the notes, and then send that to the people that you want to receive. So it saves a lot of time if you're having to sort of follow up after meetings with minted notes. So this is Fireflies, but there are plenty of tools. Another thing that you can do is the voice to text generation. So Notta is the one I use, N-O-T-T-A. And yeah, because I'm a person who loves to send voice notes. When I had my agency, my team used to probably hate the amount of voice notes I would send because I don't like typing stuff out, so I talk a lot. So tools like that, you can just talk your mind if you have some ideas or you want to share something, and it will type up the transcript and again can summarize that for you. So yeah, a good one for saving time on admin. So finance. So I've been asked this a few times, which is why I've included it. My perspective on the finance tool available are they're not particularly small business friendly. At an enterprise level, I think they're quite valuable, but basically it needs a huge amount of data to be able to. So one of the requests I received was, could AI help me with my business forecasting? with financial forecasts. It was an e-commerce business. They want to know when to order stock and kind of plan for the future. So I went away, as I do, and did some research and spoke to some colleagues I know, and I've got a database of AI tools that I update as well and refer to them. And everything that was available at the time was primarily enterprise size based. So I don't think there's much there for small businesses, but as we often see, is it kind of trickles down. And as I mentioned on the first slide, the pace of progress in AI is really, really fast. So I wouldn't be surprised if something comes out that's more small business friendly in the near future. So just a little note on that I haven't got a kind of tool to recommend, to be honest, but something to keep an eye on if finance and that side of things would be useful. And I think you'll see tools like QuickBooks and Xero introducing AI, where they'll come up with insights where you can maybe make savings on expenses, things like that. Okay, so Yulia has mentioned that they've used ChatGPT for basic fun. Yeah, that's interesting. Yes, and that's a really good point, actually, because ChatGPT kind of gets put in this box as like copy generation or answering queries, just questions you might have. But actually, it can do quite a lot with data as well and create tables and reports for you. So yeah, that's interesting that you've tried ChatGPT for that. But yeah, just something to note there, but nothing to recommend. So this is a big one for reporting. So obviously being running a marketing agency and being a marketing consultant for several years, creating a lot of reports for my clients. And I know a lot of businesses need reports to share amongst their teams, their colleagues, their management, directors, investors, whatever it might be. So AI is very, very good at capturing a lot of data, giving you some interesting insights from that data. So if you have a CRM, almost inevitably they will have to include AI to keep up. My agency was a HubSpot partner for many years. I don't know if any people in the audience have used HubSpot before, but HubSpot are really kind of leaning into AI. Dharmesh, one of the founders, has started ChatSpot, which is their AI feature, or their AI version of ChatGPT. And I think that's really interesting because what they're doing is that you can ask a query of the CRM. So a specific query, like I want to know in the last quarter, how many sales did we do in the UAE over a certain volume, or over a certain size revenue. And that will then, the question you ask the AI will then generate that report for you in the format that you want. And from there, you can then save that and then you can share that with colleagues. So really cool in terms of creating data. So that's an example from HubSpot. But whereas we would normally have to go and gather this data from Google Analytics and take a screenshot here and pull this there and maybe combine multiple tools, with the capabilities of AI, with really just a kind of text-based query, we're almost at that point where we can pull any data that we want for our businesses. So yeah, I would say this is one of the real useful areas, because when I would work with a lot of clients, they often wouldn't know the data that's available to them, and mainly because it was difficult to find, whereas now that's going to be a lot easier to do. So I think this is one of the ways that we can get a level up as small businesses, and that goes across for the whole of AI. Really, this is a bit of a leveler. I think that the people like the big corporate organizations are going to benefit from AI, clearly, the likes of Google, Microsoft, etc. But actually, as small businesses, we can really get a level up here because we can compete better and more efficiently with some of those slightly bigger organizations with the tools of AI and reporting and data insights. I would say big data was something that was potentially not available to small businesses in the sense of the costs of that, whereas now it will be. So recruitment, not something that came to mind from my perspective really with AI. I mean, I was thinking about obviously how you could create cover letters, for example, using chat tools for people that challenged with that. There was quite I think a thread that went viral on Twitter several months ago about somebody who was dyslexic using this and then managed to finally get themselves a job. So that was quite a cool little use case. But there are tools for recruiting on both sides, candidate and client. But if you were looking for somebody that you can utilize AI tools, the concept being that you can potentially remove bias, but I would be a little bit skeptical of that. I think you with all of the AI tools, really, that you still need to have. We've seen them make some pretty big errors, really. I think even in both Bing and Google's presentations, actually, the tools that they presented made some pretty big errors. So need to be skeptical of things at this stage, I would say. But yeah, potentially for recruitment, there are some tools. This is called Turing, this tool. So specifically, if you're looking for developers, and yeah, AI can assist with finding the right type of candidate, reviewing job descriptions, taking the keywords and the things that matter, and reviewing candidates, as I say, without bias, supposedly, and then you ultimately you can obviously take it the next step with interviews, etc. So another area. Just have a quick look here in the chat. There's anything? Copy.ai, yeah, another interesting tool. Yeah. And that's sending out daily prompts. That's a good one. I was speaking to somebody earlier this week about like taking the next step with it, because if you can create interesting reports or copy or notes after a session, it's that next step of actually then you need to do something else with it. You need to share it with people. You need to log it in the CRM. You can also get AI to do that. I mean, it's a blend of AI and automation, but ultimately, yeah, using it for the whole sort of element of the task so that it's kind of complete rather than just AI doing a step is the next phase that I'm working on with a lot of clients as well. So customer service. So chatbots have been around for quite a while now. So it's not a kind of a huge leap, but I think the quality of customer service can be better. I'll come on to this. Let me just, yeah, it's in the next thing as well. A bit more detail in a moment. But yeah, so using AI tools to generate customer support. So one of our clients has a full-time customer support who handles inquiries between 9 to 5. But after that, yeah, they felt the quality was dropping massively with their previous chatbots. So we upgraded using AI tools. And training it on the data from the live human customer service representative, because they'd answered so many questions over the last few years that we could feed that data into the AI so it can learn on what is the tone of voice, the way to respond, what are the answers to the queries, to give a much better experience to your users. So again, it's blending the human and the AI there, because still that person has kept their customer service professional on full time, but they've now been freed up a little bit to spend time on some other tasks as well, but also out of hours, then they've got a much better quality. And also things like FAQs. So AI can do a good job of aggregating. If you're getting customer support requests repeatedly, the AI can, the same type of customer support requests repeatedly, can understand that and therefore highlight that as one of your top 10 queries in the last month. Therefore, create an FAQ, publish that on the website, link to that when the AI chat responds, and makes it a lot easier, and you don't have people who are calling the business or whatever who can find the answer out online. So yeah, from a customer service perspective as well. What's the difference between an algorithm and AI? Oh, interesting question. Yeah, I mean, they're both quite wide terms really, but an algorithm could be something in social media or things that like Google use from a search engine perspective, which is based on some parameters. It will put a certain output. So if we think of search results with SEO, there is an algorithm with Google that will look at a variety of factors at a web page, piece of content, the heading, the URL, any images, any inbound links from other websites, for example. And if it meets its criteria according to the algorithm, it will show it in the index in the search results page. Whereas the AI is, and AI is an interesting term because often we're referring to generative AI here with all of these tools, which is basically where by posing a query or a request or a prompt, the AI will generate a response. So yeah, an algorithm is more about you put an input in like a web page, and according to the algorithm, they will show results. Whereas the AI is more generative, based on the prompt that you give it. So I hope that explains that. It's an interesting question. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, which covers a few different areas actually. It's under management here, but this is one of my favorite tools for oh, awesome. I'm glad that was helpful. So with management is knowledge bases. So first ever job I had was at a cybersecurity company, and they were fantastic, to be fair, at their knowledge base. They use Salesforce to host it, and every time anyone did anything new in the business, from the most minor thing you can imagine to like turning on the scanner at the time, it was logged in their knowledge base. So every single thing had was logged in the knowledge base. But it was usually time consuming for them to do that, to keep it updated and make sure things were, but it was still a really good step. And I've always kept that throughout my career. And I think a lot of businesses that I work with now, they have a bit part knowledge base. They might have some documents in Notion, they might have some in the Dropbox or Google Drive. So if you're onboarding a member of staff, for example, so we look at it internally, it's very hard to gather all that content. So one of the things that I think is so cool that AI can do is create almost a chat GPT for your business, which can be hosted locally, it can be used online, it can be shared with colleagues, it can be shared with clients. But think of it just in, we'll just use one kind of use case now, as onboarding a new staff member. You can feed all of the information you have about your business, your processes, your systems, what tools you use, obviously be careful with like logins and privacy and stuff, but there can be some of that as well. So you can cover all of your policies and feed that into a tool. So this is actually called knowledge base, this tool. There's 2 or 3 of them. That is literally the name of the tool. And yeah, for not a great cost. And then you can then have an internal chat GPT. So anyone who has any questions about how to do something in your business. So, okay, new person is onboarding and they need to know, right, they're going to write a document. What's our tone of voice? What's our brand guidelines? They ask that into the internal chat GPT and it outputs the answer with a link to the reference document if you need it, or the files or whatever. So really cool use case for AI for small businesses, I think. And you can imagine the time saving with the onboarding and the training, and making it a lot easier, excuse me, particularly with like remote work and stuff like that. These things can be really helpful. And then the reason why I mentioned this kind of overlaps in a few areas, because I've used it from a management perspective. But again, going back to things like customer service, you can imagine how having your own chat GPT for your business that you flip externally to customers and clients and prospects, asking questions that can be answered using the chat GPT tool. I think that's, that is a big step to do that, because, one of the things that I'm speaking to some of my clients about is that their business was built on their personable customer service, their one-to-one, the time they spend on the phone with customers and clients. So there is this blend between AI and making sure that you keep what's good about you as a small business. Okay, so let's get into some of my recommended tools to start with. Excuse me. Okay, so as I said earlier, content is one of the best ways of, or most common ways, should I say, of looking into and starting out with AI for small businesses. So as I said, social media, blog posts, emails, etc. So I would recommend jasper.ai, very good tool. And it helps with the quality of the prompts, because with ChatGPT, which I think plenty of people have used in the chat, which is great to see, you just have an empty box, so you can put in whatever you want. With Jasper, it kind of helps with creating better quality prompts. So you can put in the topic, you can put in the audience that you're trying to reach with your, let's just say a blog post for this example. So the topic of the blog post, the audience the blog post is for, the tone of voice that your brand has as a business, and then obviously the languages and things like that you can see in the screenshot. And what it will then do is generate, depending on how you use the tool. I like to be a bit more manual with it. You can ask it just to create a full blog post from the start to finish. But what you can actually do is go paragraph by paragraph. So once you give it the topic, it can then suggest a structure of 5 items or 5 subheadings, should I say, that would create a paragraph on. And then you can review them. So you can manually edit. So it might be 3 of the 5. Wow, there's great ideas. But actually, I wanted to include this point, and this is that 80-20 AI human again. So that's coming in and saying, right, I'm going to tweak point 3. I want to make it more focused on this. So then you say to the Jasper, okay, cool, let's go and generate those paragraphs. And it will generate each paragraph one by one. And you can put in focus keywords. If you're looking at SEO, for example, you can put in call to actions. If this blog post is trying to drive somebody to sign up to a webinar, for example. And each of those paragraphs will generate one by one. So you can take the time to read them, review them, and tweak them and adapt. And what it will do is it will then learn on that. And then again, you can do it for the whole, and then you've got your full blog post. So it's being a bit more prescriptive rather than just letting the AI generate the whole post. And they're the ones that are the lowest quality in my view. And again, Jasper is a really cool tool because it has everything set out in workflows. So you select what you want to do, unlike ChatGPT, which is just, as I say, the generic chat function. You select the fact you want to create social media copy for a Facebook ad, and it will have a format and a template in there for you already. So it makes it a lot easier to use. Just touching on pricing with Jasper, $20, I think, and it's based on the amount of tokens that you get. So I think I'm paying $50-$60 and generate about 50,000 tokens a month, which is probably enough for 100 blog posts, maybe something like that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not a sort of yearly subscription, it's just monthly, so you can always test it for, and most of these have got free trials, I think. Obviously ChatGPT we've mentioned before, and lots of people are using that, but you can still, that's the thing with ChatGPT. I mean, someone mentioned earlier about using it for financial forecasting. You can still use it for loads of things. So whether it is, if you want to, like, if I'm a bit like, I'm just struck for an email subject line for this campaign I'm sending out, boom, go to ChatGPT, give a bit of a brief on what I'm trying to do, generate me 5 different subject lines for this email, and it'll just get my mind thinking. So I might not use any of the 5, but it will be useful. So yeah, I love ChatGPT for just quick, I need something now. Whereas if I'm generating longer form pieces of content, yeah, big fan of Jasper. So images, so for social media, to put onto your website, etc. So DALL-E, which is OpenAI's image generator, so DALL.E. If you search for that, again, it can often be too busy to use because of the amount of people using these tools, and something like $15, I think, is their minimum token allowance. But yeah, you can test it out for free, have a little play around with it. Quality can be mixed, and depending on what you want to do. I think probably still recommend to have original imagery, to be honest, if you can get that for your business, but it just kind of fills the gaps if you're struggling on social. Midjourney as well is another tool. This one is primarily through Discord. I think they've just gone fully paid now because it was getting so overwhelmed, but that's kind of quite a famous one, Midjourney. So you have to use Discord and you just enter your prompt. So you can see here this example, an astronaut lounging in a tropical resort in space, and they're giving it the style vaporwave. So it comes back to what I said earlier about the quality of the input impacts the quality of the output. So the more information you can give these tools in terms of the type of image you want to create, then the better the output will be. Since we're businesses here, if you need headshots, headshotpro.com, a bit of a plug actually because he's a friend of mine, but anyway, it's a very cool tool. And yeah, that can generate headshots for your team on your About Us page and things like that. So yeah, loads of ways of using images with AI. Then these are what are called the blended tools. And I think you're going to see more and more of this. I bet you've almost all had an absolute barrage of emails from tools that you use, where they say introducing our new AI assistant as part of their tool. And all the existing tools are doing this more and more now. So thanks, Rafa. Good to see you. So yeah, like loads of existing tools that you may be using are introducing their AI features, and I call them blended tools because you've got all the existing features and then the benefits of the AI, and you're seeing that happen time and time again, and only will be more so. So I love Canva as a business. I think yeah, incredible business from a female entrepreneur out of Australia, and as many people like me who just can't design, basically be able to create good design for slides and for whatever it might be, presentations, etc. So they've introduced what they're calling their magic features. So you can go in there now and you can basically generate imagery like you would with one of the previous tools that I mentioned, but you can also amend existing imagery. So you can see the one on here. This was an image of a kind of like a, what is that word going out of my head? Like a teacup sort of thing. That isn't the word, but you can like blend it out and you can ask for it to generate a bunch of purple flowers, and it will place it nicely or look natural and that sort of thing. So that's just one example. Canva have actually gone kind of all in on it, to be fair, and they've got like 20 different AI tools that you can use to generate various different things. So yeah, you might already be using that. It's really cheap anyway, Canva. It's a really, really good tool. So yeah, they're magic features. From a social media perspective, a scheduling tool, primarily Buffer. There's Hootsuite. There's lots of scheduling tools that you may have used for your small business. Buffer's always been a pretty good one in my book. And they've introduced their AI assistant. So for example, you can see in the screenshot there, they've asked it to generate a social media copy, and you can rephrase it, you can expand it, you can summarize it. So again, still needs that human input. And I think it would be quite boring if everyone was just creating AI generated content on social, but it can help. It can definitely help. excuse me. So I think, yeah, their AI tools quite good. It can help you to generate posts. It can help you come up with ideas, and then obviously you can schedule it directly in the platform. So that's really the benefit, because you could do that in Jasper, you could do it in Chat GPT, but you then have to copy it across, go into. Whereas with Buffer, they've got the benefit of having it all within one tool, which is why a lot of these tools are adding their AI features to it. Some as a bit of a token gesture, some actually, like Canva, I would say, are embedding it into how they operate. I referenced HubSpot earlier. So as I said, they've got their chatbot feature, which is really cool. So yeah, I think lots of use cases for that, but I love the reports one, where you can just pull directly from the information that exists within the CRM, the data, and then it can generate whatever report in whatever format you want over whatever time period, and share it with whatever colleagues you want to, whoever colleagues. Someone's just asking about, I think it's headshotpro.com. I could be wrong if you just Google Headshot Pro. It comes up. So basically what it does, I mean, you might have seen some of these AI avatar generators, is that, yeah, you will submit some pictures of your team. Let's say, for example, you have a team of 10 staff and they're all remote, and you want to get a consistently like good looking about us page with your team all in the same place, but you can't get them in and do a professional photo shoot, which might cost $1,000 or something. You just get everyone to ping in 10 selfies or whatever that they probably already have on their phone to this tool, and it will generate in the same place, wearing not the same clothes, but wearing like the same type of thing, the same angle with the same background. It just looks really professional and it looks good. So that's just one example. There's plenty of other tools, so have a look around for sure. I've used that one, and then people use it for like their social media profile pictures. There's other AI avatars that you can create, but that one's specifically for business, so it just popped into my head. So yeah, just talking about these tools, the final line I've put there is don't need AI for AI's sake. Don't use AI for AI's sake. I think I've had a lot of consulting calls with clients over the last year or so since I've launched TryAI, and yeah, there's a lot of things that actually don't need AI. And obviously I don't want to do myself out of business, but the reality is there are probably existing tools or automations that they don't have to be AI. So kind of make sure things are actually adding value. I would say there are definitely some time saving. Hopefully you've seen through some of these examples, you can see some efficiency gains and time savings to be had through AI, but there are probably tools that you can use anyway, where you're getting just the same benefit. So that's been a recurring theme in a lot of my sessions with clients. Okay, so a few things more before wrap up the presentation part. So these are questions I always ask of my prospects, and things worth thinking about before you start to use AI. So have you used it as a consumer? So plenty of people in here have used ChatGPT. So that's a good starting point. Have you used it? And in particular, are there any experiences that you were impressed by? Because if you were and you found benefit, then potentially you can update those. You can utilize those for your business. Again, have you seen your competitors utilizing AI well? And this is interesting because obviously it's a bit of a race really with AI in some industries, where competitors and businesses are racing to introduce AI as their features, as I mentioned earlier, and things like that. So yes, have you seen your competitors utilizing it well, and can you learn from that? And ultimately thinking, what would success look like for you with AI? Which really comes back to what would success look like for your business, and can AI help with that? So there are three really important questions, I think, to start with. Let's just see. Okay, cool. Helped you create training courses. Thanks, Tessa. That's really interesting. Yeah, really cool ideas. Workshops. Yeah, good use. So next steps, I would say, off the back of this webinar, hopefully I've just given you some food for thought, really. Obviously, it's not we haven't got loads of time to go into huge detail on all the AI tools and different use cases that exist, but I wanted to just go through a few different areas. I think we covered 8 areas of your business where AI could assist. And could assist is the important point. What I would say is start with 1 or 2. Maybe start with 1 or 2 that are the most important to you, or where you're wasting a lot of time. You feel the efficiencies aren't there. Maybe admin and marketing potentially could be there. And just test some of the tools for fun initially. Don't necessarily use them for the business. Just get used to AI, understand how it can work and how it can operate, and its limitations as much as anything. As I said before, notice when you're using or seeing it as a consumer. That's a really interesting insight, because you can then take that away and apply it to your own business, and then start to introduce it into your business in a low risk way. So I wouldn't just go fully AI with my marketing, for example. I would go ahead and introduce, create 1 blog post of the 4 or 5 or 6 you generate per month as AI, see how it goes. and communicate with it, communicate about it with your team and customers, particularly with your team internally. Obviously, get them to understand it and to play with it as well, and utilize the tools. The tools are so easy to use, to be honest, that it's not like you need really too much formal training. And also with your customers, I think it is important to realize that they are speaking to an AI chatbot, or they're reading a content that was generated partially by AI or something like that. And then try to keep up to date with progress. I was saying to Alice earlier, I did this workshop a couple of weeks ago with another group, and even since then, I mean, like I said yesterday with Google's announcements, like a lot of the stuff is out of date, to be honest. And with all my clients, I have an ongoing agreement where I'll go back to them if if I identify a tool that is better than the one that I recommended at the time. So even from clients 6 to 9 months ago, I'm going back to them and saying, hey, what you're currently using was good at the time, but now there's a preferred tool here we can look at. So not easy to keep up to date with it. I'm a big fan of Twitter. There are so many followers on Twitter. A friend of mine, a guy called Ben, he's got an email called Ben's Bites. I think he's got 100,000 subscribers or something, just summarizing everything about AI every day. It's a bit overwhelming, I'll be honest. There's like 50 links every day, and I don't have time to read through all of them, so I try and summarize and identify the best ones. And then a guy called Greg runs You Probably Need a Robot, which is a community, which is pretty cool, and they have a weekly or monthly newsletter, I'm not sure. So yeah, there's a few different resources you can do, and then just to continue to adopt as it fits to your business. So test, iterate, expand. What I do with the clients is, as I said, test on a small basis, tweak it a little bit till we're happy with it, and then we expand it. So we grow it, and we'll be doing more. Maybe they go fully creating content using blog posts. Their customer support goes that way. Their admin is fully generated using note takers, AI note takers that disseminate that information. So yeah, it's just a process really of introducing it steadily and going from there. So